Well, let's see here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I say, we're gonna be retooling our style guide and the style guide is there for consistency, right? Because we want it to all look alike, not be, all over the place. So
Right.
it's just part of the process. But at this point, well, you have a unique perspective because the reason I love that I'm really interested in this is because normally we train people like they come in here and we have people train. Well, you were just thrown under the bus. So so you really had to kind of put things together on your own a lot, I think. Um, so that's why I'm interested in your perspective on this. So, let's see. First of all, have you ever done any transcribing like for your projects or anything?
Yeah, so actually I work with UF IFAS, which is like the College of Agriculture. And they my job is to do captioning for them. So it's not exactly transcribing, but we do a similar process in that we use AI to kind of get like a general first draft and then we go through and edit. So I do have some experience in that avenue, but with the script specifically, I don't. We use for a time we used Otter AI,
Mhm.
and then now we use the Navigator UF AI platform in conjunction with YouTube. And then that's how we've been doing it. But
Mhm.
my boss is actually looking into using Descript because it's more of a integrated platform. So I do have a little bit of experience.
Okay, so yeah, because it's funny. I asked that question because a lot of people come in, they 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 have done transcribing, but it's usually for their projects, and they don't really have any kind of background in it. And so, I mean, the way they do it is really very inventive. Like they'll use quick time to play, and all this stuff. Like, gosh, that's really torture in my view. But anyway, okay, um, so you've never had to do transcribing the old listen and type way like they did.
I have not.
Okay, yeah, that's like the traditional way. I mean, before we used tapes, literally cassette tapes, but there was still a machine. You just use the pedal. I don't know if you've seen this process. You use the pedal with your foot, and then you can listen, and the program plays the audio. There's a lot of similarities here. Um, and then you type. But the main thing there is that you have two things that can go at once. See
Right.
that's where you get hung up on the transcribe. You can't just listen and then go over here and do this and go over here and do this simultaneously.
Right.
So that's kind of the I guess the magic. There is no. So okay, well, if you don't mind, I just tell me your process in the beginning and all your issues, and then the end, and how you felt like you had the best success.
Yeah, so when I first started out, I was trying to do edits directly in Descript, and I was having a little bit of trouble with like certain, when I would go to make corrections, sometimes it would like cut weird, or especially if there was like if it was a correction at the very beginning or very end of a line, it sometimes didn't like that, and I wasn't too sure how to fix it. I definitely played around with it a little bit, but in the end, I was like, you know what, let me not break something. So I ended up just going straight to the Word document and
Mhm.
editing it there, which is something that I feel like a style I'm more comfortable with just because of where I work. So I have kind of that it's similar in format to the way that we do it, in that it doesn't have it necessarily try to correct things like timings
Mhm.
and stuff for you.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that has pros and cons. I think that if you learn how to use it, that can definitely be a big pro. But I think that coming into it is a little bit of a learning curve, like definitely learning how to use the platform. But other than that, I didn't really have many issues. The sound quality was really good. There was never, I found that it actually did a pretty good job of transcribing words that I was not too sure if it was going to get the spelling right. Of course, I mean, it makes mistakes there. It's a machine, but it did have, it had general consistency with that, which is something that I did notice. But yeah, that was kind of my start out, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of similar to the experience that we've had before. Because I mean, it's like magic compared to how it used to be. I mean, the computer. But did you have any? Did you have any? You didn't have any experience with the computer freezing or anything like that, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was a big issue in the very recent past with that.
Yeah.
Just literally, it would just literally freeze the
Ugh.
computer, and so then you're like, well, what do I do now? You know?
Yeah, and at work, I've had programs do that. That's why we ended up switching off of Otter because it would
Mhm.
crash, it would freeze all the time, and it was just
Oh,
so not, it was very inconvenient. So I was happy that I didn't have that happen, but I also wasn't sure if maybe my experience was a little bit smoother just because I was only using the audio files. I don't know if maybe when it plays video, it might be a little choppier. But yeah, in my experience, I luckily didn't have any of that happen.
oh, that's good. That's good because, you know, it gets so frustrating using these things. Sometimes you just want to
Yeah.
take it out the window. But
Yeah.
so the most frustrating thing was for you was the kind of fritzy way it maybe lost its place, or do you think?
Yeah, I think that for sure going um from line to line was where it was the most
Mm,
frustrating. I think that like sometimes what I would find was that if I was especially trying to correct the word at the beginning of a sentence, it wouldn't let me
mm,
delete the text there. And then what I tried to do was type the corrected word after that and then delete it, and then it still wasn't letting me do that.
right,
So I
right.
never fully figured out how to fix that, although I did look into it a little bit, and I think that it was a relatively easy fix. Like after I was looking at it, just because I was curious, but it was something with the timings, was what I understood from it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you think about when sometimes you have to add a word that they missed. And
Yeah, yeah,
and so I'm like, how does that work exactly?
yeah,
Um, in oral history, we're very concerned about the authenticity of it.
right.
So we're really concerned about getting what they exactly said down there. I mean, well, now with style guide, let's hold off on this one. Hold off 1 second. So at the end of the day, you had how did you do it? How did you do it at the end of the day? I mean, at the end of all this,
So I had a split screen essentially with I did the Word document on the right side, and then I had the Descript like platform open on the left side. And I preferred using Descript to play the audio because I did find that sometimes if I didn't understand a word, it was like easy to kind of see the context it was in. It was also helpful to be able to scroll up in the transcript if I was didn't want to lose my place in where I was in the Word document. And I also think that it was helpful in terms of like marking timing. So the little like I don't know what you call that timeline thing
yeah,
at the bottom.
yeah.
Yeah, I found that to be really, really helpful. Just to be able to like scroll through. And yeah, so that was essentially how I did it. And I I really didn't find it too bad. I think that I didn't end up having to pause very many times because I couldn't correct it while it was playing. I found it to be pretty intuitive once I kind of got going with it. So it was definitely not anything like too out of the ordinary, too extra strenuous, I guess. But yeah, it was kind of that setup. And then I'm trying to think if I had any other things that were helping, but I'm pretty sure it was just that. And then I just went through the transcript and corrected what needed to be corrected on the Word doc. And then from there it was it was all done.
Yeah, they look beautiful. You know, you can imagine, I always had to bring this up. Can you imagine having to do every last word, listen and type?
Yeah, no, I cannot.
It is, yeah, I mean, those, I give it up for those people that have done it, for years and years. But yeah, listen and type. And then when you could never go back after this. I don't care how frustrating it is.
Yeah.
You just can't go back. Okay. That well, actually, what you just described is pretty much what people end up doing. And what I think it is, Sarah, a little bit is if you just don't want to you can't expend the time to really learn the program because it is a bit of a learning curve on this program,
Yes, yeah.
I will say, because it's designed to do podcasts and all kinds of things. And when you really get the hang of it, you can uh, it's really amazing what you can do. And I highly recommend this if you ever need to do a podcast or something like that. This
Right.
is the way to go. This is the way to go because you can literally just copy paste and the words come, but so does the audio or video.
Right.
That's insane, insane.
Yeah, no, it definitely is it's like you were saying, I have frequently thought to myself, I cannot imagine having to do this the time it would take to do it the kind of the traditional way to just listen and type every single word. And yeah, so I'm, I think it would definitely be worth learning like the platform. And I think that if you, like your office was ever to have student assistants come in, in my opinion, it would be worth giving them like a training on how to use the platform because I think that I mean I didn't really look too further into it just
Mhm.
because I was only doing those four transcripts, but definitely if I was doing more than that, I would spend the time to get acquainted with the platform because I can see how even just poking around in there were a lot of tools that seemed like they could be really useful knowing how to use them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that because actually that's going to be what we focus on. Moving forward, everything is just changing so fast. It's
Yeah.
just, but we've always wanted to have our students do podcasts, but they just can't sustain that energy that it takes. I mean,
Right.
they'd have to go back and find the audio, just literally listening for it and then copying it. And it's really kind of a deal breaker because it would take months for them to
Right.
do that. But with this, we'll train them. But like you say, just really double down and find the best way to do this. Okay. So I guess the last thing that I'm curious about is, did you have a chance to look through that style guide at all? And because that's how we actually format. Now, what you did was get the words all right, and that's perfect. That's a perfect like draft. But so the next phase is we're going to have to adapt that to that formatting. So that seems like a leap of faith because you know it it's it's got page one and page two, so they're different. So I think that's
Right.
so, but you didn't really try that out, right? Or
I didn't try that out specifically, but I did go through the style guide just because I was interested and obviously wanted to get things as close as possible to make them as useful as possible, I guess. But they I really did like how you had kind of like standardized I don't even want to say formatting necessarily, but for things like grammar or for specific cases where it might be unclear whether you're supposed to put like an em dash or a colon or things
Mhm.
like that. That's something that even in my office, like we've struggled to kind of standardize. And after looking at your style guide, I actually told my bosses like this was something that I found very helpful that was given to me by the Sam Proctor Oral History program, and we should definitely have something similar to that. So I did find it very helpful, and I think that even when using AI has a problem with having standardized outputs,
Oh
of
yeah,
course.
you can't do
So I
it.
think that yeah, and so I definitely think I found that to be very valuable doing this and even outside of it.
Okay, that answers another question because I was going to ask you if there was anything like you learned from this process, and that's amazing right there. We're happy to hear that. Um, because it does. I mean, yeah, what do you do? Because everybody, they'll spell okay a different way, all kinds of things.
Yes.
All right, all these words that are, and how do you put the years in and things like that. They come up all the time. So in that style guide has been, that's the result of the entire history
Yeah.
program, which is like coming on almost, well, we're approaching 60 years now. So that's a lot of information there.
Yeah, and it was great how I really liked that it was extensive, especially when it had like do and don't columns. That was very helpful. And also like when it provided examples, that was really great. I did even go back sometimes into it because I remembered reading about something and then that instance came up and I was like, oh, let me make sure I'm doing this correctly. Yeah, so it was definitely it was very helpful, really easy to navigate. And I found it to be very, very helpful.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, this is a great skill to have. Just, I mean, it doesn't seem like it, but
No, but it is. Yeah.
it's so basic. I mean, just the writing, that's going to come in handy. And as you probably noticed, or it took me a while to even notice this when I said, "Oh my God, how did I miss this?" But there's no, AI doesn't do laughter. It doesn't do, it doesn't do like noises.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
I know. And that's such an important part, especially of an oral history or something like that, of just like that sets the tone, I feel like, of sentences. Like it's very, very important.
So that's something that was completely, you wouldn't even notice it in the transcript. So it's something that we had to pay attention to. Well, that's all the questions I have, Sarah. Is there anything you want to, any kind of insight or anything you'd like to, like maybe tell someone who is just attempting this or?
Not anything I feel like we didn't cover. I really liked the platform. I think that definitely it's worth spending the time to get acquainted with the program. I think that putting a few minutes of effort in the beginning will save you a lot of time in the end. So definitely worth doing that. And yeah, like I said, I literally told my supervisors at work that it was helpful. And they're actually looking into Descript because we've been having some issues with YouTube and so it's definitely, I have only positive things to say for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. All right, well, I guess that's it. I'll just close out by saying this is Deborah Hendrix. Today's date is June 11th, 2025. And I'm speaking with Sarah, is it Wutzler?
Wutzler, yeah.
Wutzler, and she has given us her invaluable insight and expertise on using Descript today. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, we'll be back in touch and keep me updated on the project there. I'm really excited.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Well, I'll see you later then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.